Welcome, Saag Texas. We're so excited that you're joining us for our first Cooking with Saag episode. Today we're blending what is so passionate to the South Asian community, and that is cooking. We're also going to be knocking off a few of your New Year's resolutions, healthy cooking, and also saving democracy, all in one big short video. Today we have with us Ritu Krishna, who is also one of our leaders on our leadership team in the Dallas area. And she and her daughter, Priya Krishna, created this beautiful book called Indian Dish, which is the best of East and West cooking. And we're going to be learning how to make a dish. Can you tell us a little bit about the dish that we're going to be making today?
So the spinach dish is a dish that used to be made. It was a favorite in our home all the time because it's a good blend of healthy and delicious, and it's quick and easy. After coming back from work, you can assemble it, put it together. It goes well with everything. It's just got a whole lot of spinach, feta, and a few spices, and like I said, it comes together really quickly, as you will see.
Great. Well, let's get started. Tell us a little bit about the ingredients we're going to use today.
As I mentioned, there's lots of fresh spinach. We have an onion. I'll probably not use all of it. And then we've got some ginger. We've got some garlic. We've got whole coriander seeds and whole cardamom. I'm going to grind all of this together so it will all get blended nicely. And then for additional taste and flavor, you can do a chalk on top, which consists of cumin seeds, red chili powder, asafoetida, which is a special ingredient in Indian cooking, and ghee, and then topped with a spritz of lime, and voila.
Yes, ready. I'm so excited. So let's get started.
Okay, so I'm just gonna chop. So I will probably just use half. Don't need to do any fine chopping or anything. It's all very rough chop because we are just going to grind it off. That's it.
Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about the primaries. I know that you're going on a trip. What is your plans for the primary?
Yeah, so our plans unfortunately kept on changing, so we were having to change our voting plan as well. So my plan is to vote early. So early voting starts February 14th, right?
Right.
So I'm going to go do that, and I'm trying to get most of my friends do the same thing, and a few have already left, so they have already requested absentee ballot, so they'll be able to vote, so which is great. So Chanda, what is a typical turnout in these local primaries, local elections?
Not as high as we'd like, especially in the South Asian community. Only 10% of our community comes out to vote. For the general population, it's also around 10%, and we really need to be doing better.
Definitely.
And, this is something really important that we need to know, and that is that we live in a really polarized world, and this country is more polarized than I've ever seen it. And it's become sort of the primaries that really have kind of fueled that division in our country, because both the far left and the far right are very passionate, and they're the ones that vote in the primary. Yet most of Texas is in the middle, and the people that are in the middle tend not to vote, and so it becomes a very polarizing.
So people
situation.
like us.
Yeah.
Don't care.
Yeah. So
I'm going to take a quick break and go over there and get the next step of this dish started. So I'm going to put some oil in just a minute. Yes.
to roast the coriander ahead of time?
Just a little bit the fire, not too much before. I'm going to grab a spoon. This is a really easy dish. Anybody can do it. It doesn't really matter if you do one step too early, one step too late. It's very forgiving. I do not have a green chili today, but if you like it spicy, you can add a green chili. So once the onions have cooked just a little bit, they don't have to brown or anything, you can start cooking, putting the spinach on high heat, and it really wilts down very, very fast. And the idea is to not overcook it, because that's the only way you're going to get that bright green color. So what I'm going to do now is let it cool down. I have my salt in here, so I'll add that. And then let it cool down before I blitz it in the food processor. And one of the questions that I get asked all the time from my friends when I am trying to convince them to go vote, because, as you and I have talked many times, this is not always a priority. The numbers show that. And one of the questions that I get asked is why? Why is it important? So for me, and I'd love to hear why you think it's important. For me, the most important factors are actually 3 or 4, maybe 5. The first one is my voting rights. Mm-hmm. As a citizen, I think that's very important, so I want to make sure that those are preserved.
Those are at risk this year. So.
Exactly. The second thing that's really important to me as a female, and it should be important to everyone really, is my decision to choose, women's right to choose.
Also at risk.
Right. Another is environment, which is a huge issue. We are experiencing that. The freeze that we had last year, and these ups and downs in weather. Then healthcare, which is another big issue that we all care about. And there are many others, but those I would say are the top reasons. Why do you think voting in the primaries or local elections is important from your perspective?
Yeah, all of those reasons are really good reasons, and so many of my friends have the same concern. I think there's a disconnect in our community about voting and how all of those issues are actually connected, and that they don't feel like it's actually going to make a difference. And it actually does. And the problem that we have is a lot of people were excited about the presidential and felt very complacent after that, thinking we're home free now. Like, we don't have to worry about all these things.
I hear that a lot.
And it's not. And primarily everything that's going to be happening in the midterm, there are people that are going to be directly able to vote on issues that you just talked about. Mm-hmm. And so your House district representatives and your state Senate representatives, they're going to be talking about health. They're going to be voting on health care. They're going to be talking about voting rights. They're going to be talking about women's health. Those are things that they're going to be voting for. So you've got to have somebody who's going to advocate for us. The environment. We have the railroad commissioner and the land commissioner, and those two individuals are going to make a huge impact on what happens with our grid, as well as oil and gas, and the things that affect us directly.
So the races that are in the running in this election are?
Well, at the top of the ticket we have the governor.
Yes.
So that's really important, because that's somebody that is going to actually sign or veto and create special sessions. Mm-hmm. And so that's going to be critical and important.
Right.
And then after that is the next most important, or probably the most important race, is the lieutenant governor. Okay. They're the ones that are actually decide which bills are going to come to the floor and which ones aren't. So they can actually stop bills that are destructive before ever coming. So you want to vote for somebody.
It's not a very visible position, because we don't hear about that a lot.
Yeah.
So it's important that people realize that. Yeah.
So we also have the Attorney General, Land Commissioner, and Agricultural Commissioner, and all of those, support all of these things that we've been enduring over the last 2 years, and that was having to do with the grid, and how we're going to get that fixed, and what are the things that are going to be in place that make sure it never happens again. Because I'm not quite sure that we're quite there with how we're going to fix the grid. So if we want change, we've got to make sure that we go to the polls.
People go out to vote.
You've got to go vote to the polls.
So Feb 14th is early voting.
Yes.
And then election day is March 1.
Right.
And then if we will have runoffs in May, I think, right?
It's usually 6 weeks later.
6 weeks later,
yeah.
Okay. And we'll find out, I guess, in a couple of weeks after the election.
Yeah.
And then the election in November.
And the election in November. And it moves by so incredibly fast.
So how, another question that people ask me all the time, and you and I have done this before, is how do they decide who to vote for?
So there are lots of different resources that you can use. You can definitely go to our website, which is savetexas.org. Website. You can also go to Vote 411.
That's right.
As well as the Texas Tribune, and they offer in-depth information about each and every candidate.
I think vote411.org or Texas Tribune, you can put in your address.
Correct.
And then you can get your customized ballot.
Yes.
What you will see when you go to the election. I think that's, once they have that, they can print it out, and then based on the guidance that they get from Save Texas website,
Right.
they can have a cheat sheet.
Yeah, easy to do.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go to the next step.
Okay.
Right, so this is cooked down and it's cooled down, the spinach and the onion and the spices. I'm just going to add it to my blender. And you can add a little bit of water to give it a bit of a liquid consistency. That's entirely up to you. And sometimes after it has been sitting for a while, it thickens. You can always add more water. So now I'm going to empty this out, and you can see the brilliant green color.
Beautiful and creamy. Look how beautiful.
Yeah.
It is.
So the secret to its green brilliant color is the fact that it's not been overcooked, just gently sauteed and wilted. That's it. Doesn't need too much of cooking. Alright, so next I'm going to make the seasoning, which we called chalk, and it's basically ghee, which is clarified butter. I'm gonna let it warm up a little bit, and then I will add some spices to it, specifically cumin, asafoetida, which as I mentioned is a secret ingredient in Indian cooking, and then a little bit of chili powder. And this really raises, layers the spices, and just the dish really comes alive. So you'll see that the ghee is melting. So it's gonna take a little bit of time to warm up. So one of the questions that a lot of people ask is about asafoetida, because I think of it as truffle of Indian cooking.
Oh.
Because it has very strong smell.
Yeah.
Do you use it in your?
I do.
Yeah. Because in the north, I mean, it is the ingredient that just completes the dish.
Absolutely. And it's got such a unique flavor. I don't have any way to describe it to my non-Indian friends, but it is such an unusual flavor.
It
really,
is.
really brings out a
And
dish.
I think a lot of times when people say that, well, your cooking tastes different than my cooking, chances are it's that ingredient that got left out. So I'm going to, now the ghee is warmed up, I'm adding the cumin, and as Priya says, when the cumin starts dancing, you know it's ready. I'm going to add the asafoetida, the secret ingredient, and the chili powder, and that's it, it's done. So the chalk is ready. I'm going to just bring it across and assemble this dish. And I think, Chanda, you were asking me why I use feta versus paneer, which would be a traditional ingredient in this. And the history behind that, or the reason behind that, is in the early days, paneer was not so easily available. So I was trying to find a substitute that would go well with spinach. And we had a Greek store near my house, and I discovered feta and loved it, and it really, was the perfect pairing. So feta became a normal ingredient from then on rather than being a substitute.
I love it. It's a good fusion story.
Yes.
What year did you come to the United States?
Oh, I've been here a long time. I came in 1981, so those days Indian stores weren't
Few and far between.
very few and far between. And I came to Massachusetts, so Massachusetts even less. So I'm gonna add a spritz of lime, which always is another secret of Indian cooking. Just adds that freshness. And then I'm gonna top it off with the chunk and give you a taste, and you can tell me if it tastes like the one you made. Now we're going to try it the way I normally eat it, which is I eat it with some rice. You can also eat it with roti or naan or any other kind of bread.
Yeah.
And
So excited to try this.
yeah, see how you like it.
So good.
Not bad.
It's really creamy and smooth, and it's creamy without the cream,
Right.
which is so lovely. It's like silk, and the sharp contrast of the feta is just the right amount of tartness to really bring out, like, complements both of the ingredients in there.
Great.
But thank you for teaching us this.
Of course. I love to cook, so this was fun. And I think the most important thing that I learned today is really just, the whole thing put together, how important it is for South Asians to vote in local elections, why you and I think it's important, given the dismal attendance that we've had in the past and the roles that are up for election. And then the dates, and the wonderful thing is through your volunteers and your efforts, there is a website, a resource that people can go to, savetext.org, right? That's
Yes.
what it's called?
Yeah.
So that's a great resource for anyone, and we are always looking for volunteers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. There's a huge opportunity for us to actually turn the dial just within the South Asian community. We're going to be one of the most powerful voting blocs in the next few years, and so we need everybody to come out. We could definitely use the volunteers. We can help you work in your own neighborhood, so just make sure you reach out to us via our website at savetext.org.
SAAVETX.org.
Right.
Right.
Check out Indianish. It's such a great book. I gave one of these to all my kids because they're able to make these recipes. They're so incredibly good. And the one thing that I really like about it is because my daughter keeps asking me what the measurements are.
Oh, right.
And so this book has all the measurements that your daughters are asking you, or your sons are asking.
I think it makes a good template, because then the kids can improvise from there.
Yeah. Thanks so much for letting us come to your kitchen and helping us cook from the book. It was an amazing experience, and thank you for having us.
Well, I enjoyed it as well and learned something in the process.
Great. And thank you, Ashi, for doing our videography. She did such an amazing job.